The forest looks different when the sun is already high. In the early morning, everything feels calm. Today, the light is harsh. The air is heavy. Every step kicks up dry dust from the trail. There's no cool breeze waiting around the next corner. No shortcut through the heat. Just another run. And honestly, I like it that way. Because days like this don't let you pretend. They show you exactly who you are. It's easy to believe you're disciplined when everything works in your favor. When you wake up full of energy. When the weather is perfect. When life feels organized. But those days don't teach you much. The difficult ones do. The days when your body asks for comfort before you've even started. The days when your mind quietly suggests that missing one run won't change anything. Maybe it won't, but that's never been the real question. The real question is, who am I becoming because of the choices I make today? That question follows me on every run. Some days the answer feels obvious. Other days I have to earn it. I've stopped treating running as something I need to complete. Now I see it differently. Every run is a conversation. Not with the trail, not with the weather, with myself. Out here, there are no distractions, no meetings, no notifications, no endless noise asking for attention. Just breathing, footsteps, and thoughts that become impossible to ignore. I've noticed something interesting. Most people aren't afraid of hard work. They're afraid of what hard work might reveal, because effort has a strange way of exposing the truth. If you're patient, it shows you where your discipline ends and where your excuses begin. That can be uncomfortable, but uncomfortable doesn't mean bad. Sometimes discomfort is simply honesty wearing a different face. Years ago, I thought confidence came before action. I believed confident people naturally did difficult things. Now I know it's usually the opposite. Confidence grows after you've done difficult things enough times. Not perfectly, consistently. One promise kept becomes evidence, then another. Eventually, those small pieces of evidence become something powerful. Trust, not trust from other people. Trust in yourself. That's the kind of confidence nobody can give you. It has to be earned, step by step, run by run, decision by decision. As I move deeper into the forest, I notice how the sunlight breaks through the trees. For a few seconds, I'm in the shade. Then the heat returns. That rhythm reminds me of life. Nothing stays comfortable forever. Nothing stays difficult forever either. Everything moves. Everything changes. The question is whether your values change with your circumstances. I've learned that mine used to. If life became busy, discipline disappeared. If I felt tired, goals became negotiable. If conditions weren't ideal, commitment quietly waited for another day. I didn't notice it at first, because excuses rarely sound like excuses. They sound reasonable. They sound responsible. They sound temporary. That's why they're dangerous. They slowly become part of the way we think. Until one day we forget they were excuses at all. Breaking that cycle doesn't require a dramatic moment. It begins with a simple decision. Tell yourself the truth, not the comfortable version, the useful one. Maybe you haven't been as consistent as you wanted. Maybe you've been waiting instead of acting. Maybe you've been hoping that motivation will suddenly appear. I've waited for motivation before. It almost never arrived on time. Action did. Every time I chose to begin without feeling ready, something changed. Not the world. Me. I've started believing that the hardest part of any challenge isn't the effort. It's making the first honest decision. Because once you've done that, the next step becomes possible. Then another, and another. Looking around this forest, I realized something. None of these trees became strong overnight. They stood through heat, storms, cold winters, dry summers, season after season. Growth wasn't dramatic. It was consistent. Maybe we're supposed to grow the same way. Not by changing our lives in one incredible moment, but by refusing to abandon the small decisions that matter. That's what this run really is. Not another workout, another vote. A vote for the kind of person I want to become. And today, I'm casting that vote again. The longer I run, the quieter my mind becomes. At the beginning of every run, there's always noise. Thoughts about work, plans for tomorrow, things I should have said, things I shouldn't have done. They all compete for attention. But after a few kilometers, something changes. The noise begins to fade. Only the important thoughts remain. I've learned not to fear that silence. That's where the real conversations happen. There are no filters out here. No audience. No reason to pretend. The trail doesn't care who you say you are. It only sees what you do. And maybe life isn't much different. We spend a lot of time trying to build the right image. We want people to see us as disciplined, reliable, focused, strong. There's nothing wrong with that. But eventually there comes a moment when nobody is watching. That moment tells the truth. Did you still do the work? Did you keep your promise? Did you stay true to your standards? Those answers matter far more than opinions. Because reputation is built in public. Character is built in private. I've started asking myself a simple question whenever something feels difficult. If nobody ever knew I did this, would I still do it? The answer reveals more than I expect. Running gives me the chance to answer that question almost every day. Nobody is standing at the end of this trail. There are no cameras following every step. No crowd waiting to applaud. Just another ordinary day. And somehow, that's exactly what makes it meaningful. Because ordinary days shape extraordinary lives. Not the big moments. Not the celebrations. Not the rare victories. The quiet Tuesdays. The hot afternoons. The days when nothing exciting happens. Those are the days that quietly decide the future. I've stopped chasing perfect days. They don't exist. Every day brings something. Fatigue, stress, unexpected problems, or simply a lack of motivation. For a long time, I thought those things were obstacles. Now I see them differently. They're opportunities to practice. Practice patience. Practice discipline. Practice keeping my word. Anyone can stay committed when life feels easy. The real test comes when commitment becomes inconvenient. That's where standards become visible. I've realized that standards are different from goals. A goal is something you hope to reach. A standard is something you refuse to fall below. Goals can change. Standards shouldn't. One goal leads to another. But standards become part of your identity. That's why I care less about today's pace than I did a few years ago. Of course I want to improve. But improvement isn't always measured by speed. Sometimes improvement means staying calm when frustration appears. Sometimes it means refusing to compare myself to someone else's journey. Sometimes it means accepting that today's best effort looks different from yesterday's. That's not weakness. That's maturity. The forest reminds me of that every time I come here. No two trees grow in exactly the same way. Some are taller. Some are older. Some have survived storms that others never experienced. Yet none of them wastes energy trying to become the tree beside it. They simply keep growing. That's enough. Maybe it should be enough for us too. Comparison steals attention from the only life we can actually improve. Our own. Every minute spent wishing for someone else's progress is a minute we didn't invest in ours. I made that mistake before. It's exhausting. Now I try to compete with one person. The version of myself that finished yesterday's run. Can I become a little more patient? A little more disciplined? A little more honest? That's a challenge worth accepting. Because it never ends. Every sunrise offers another chance to answer it. The finish of a run has always been a strange moment for me. Not because it's exciting. Because it's honest. By the time I reach the final stretch, there's nothing left to negotiate. The work has already been done. The excuses have already lost. The only thing that remains is the quiet satisfaction of knowing I kept another promise. I've realized that this feeling never gets old. It isn't the feeling of victory over someone else. It's the feeling of alignment. When your actions match your intentions. When your words and your choices finally tell the same story. For a long time, I thought success would feel louder. I imagined confidence as something dramatic, something that arrived all at once. Instead, it arrived quietly. It grew through mornings when nobody knew I was out here, through runs that weren't impressive, through days that looked completely ordinary from the outside. That's the interesting thing about real change. Most of it is invisible. People notice the results long after the work has already become a habit. They see consistency. They don't see the hundreds of moments when quitting would have been easier. They see progress. They don't see the small decisions that created it. Maybe that's why patience is so important. If we only celebrate visible progress, we'll miss the part that matters most. Roots grow before branches. Character grows before confidence. Discipline grows before achievement. The order matters. Too many people chase the last step while ignoring the first. I've learned to respect the process instead of trying to rush through it. Because the process is where life actually happens. Not at the finish line, not on the day a goal is reached, but here, on an ordinary afternoon, on a trail that asks for nothing except another step. I've stopped trying to build a life that depends on perfect conditions. I'd rather build habits that survive imperfect ones, because that's where confidence comes from. Not from believing nothing will go wrong, from believing that when something does go wrong, you'll still move forward. That's a much stronger kind of confidence, and it's available to anyone willing to earn it. Step by step, day by day. I've also realized that every run is a vote, not for a result, for an identity. Every time I choose the trail over another excuse, I'm casting a vote for the person I want to become. One vote doesn't change much, but thousands do. That's how identity is built. Not in one extraordinary moment, in countless ordinary ones. Maybe that's the biggest lesson I've learned during this journey. You don't wake up one morning as a different person. You slowly become one. You become the sum of the promises you keep, the standards you refuse to lower, the choices you continue making after the excitement disappears. That's when commitment becomes real. When nobody is reminding you, nobody is expecting anything from you, and you still show up. As I begin to slow down, the forest is exactly as it was when I started. The sunlight still filters through the trees. The air is still warm. The trail still stretches behind me. The world hasn't changed in the last hour, but I have. Maybe only a little. Maybe in ways nobody else will ever notice. But that's enough, because meaningful change rarely announces itself. It accumulates, quietly, one run, one decision, one honest day at a time. So when this run ends, I won't ask whether it was perfect. I'll ask a simpler question. Was I honest today? Did I keep my word? Did I move forward, even when it wasn't comfortable? If the answer is yes, then today was a good day. Not because it was easy, because it made tomorrow a little easier to trust. And that's all I need. Another honest step, another honest run, another chance to become the person I'm trying to be. I'll see you on the trail tomorrow. Same time, same choice. This is Run to Evolve. One day, one run, one lesson, no excuses.